Alright, let's set the stage here because this ain't no sit back and sip your tea kind of conversation. This is the kind of talk that'll make you lean forward, grip your seat, and start asking yourself some real hard questions. We live in a world where every single nation's got their eyes on their own future, but India's got everybody's eyes on it. And I'm not talking about a couple of curious neighbors peeking over the fence. I'm talking about nations, big, powerful, ambitious nations, watching every move, every policy, every development like hawks circling in the sky. And today, we're going to break it down. The top 5 countries that actually pose a threat to India. Not the imaginary ones, not the ones in bedtime stories, the real players who could shake the balance if India's not ready. First, you gotta understand something. When a country rises as fast as India is rising, it's not just about GDP numbers or technology upgrades. It's about influence. Influence scares people more than missiles sometimes, because influence means you can shift markets, sway political alliances, control narratives, and that's exactly what's making certain countries very, very nervous. And when people get nervous, they act. Sometimes openly, sometimes in the shadows, but they act. Now let's start with the one everyone sees coming. The obvious one, China. This isn't a story about 2 neighbors having a friendly disagreement over a garden fence. No, this is a rivalry with deep history, deeper mistrust, and the deepest strategic implications you can imagine. China's been watching India's growth like someone watching a fire creeping towards their own house. They've got the world's second largest economy, a massive military, and a habit of pushing their weight around, especially in Asia. From the Himalayas to the Indian Ocean, every step India takes, China calculates how to counter it. They're building ports in countries surrounding India, deepening economic ties in South Asia, and developing military infrastructure along the border. It's a chess game, and both sides know that one wrong move could change the entire region's future. But here's the thing. India isn't playing checkers anymore. It's not reacting, it's anticipating. Then there's Pakistan. You can't talk about threats to India without mentioning the neighbor that's been a thorn in its side since 1947. This is not just about land disputes or military skirmishes. This is about an ideology clash, a decades-old hostility that's embedded into both countries' political DNA. And the danger with Pakistan isn't just their military. Though they do have nuclear weapons, it's their unpredictability. Pakistan's internal instability, combined with its reliance on other big powers for military and economic support, makes it a wild card. One day it's diplomatic talks, the next day it's border firing. One day it's trade discussions, the next day it's accusations and threats, and behind Pakistan's moves, sometimes you'll find other nations whispering in their ear, using them as a proxy to test India's limits. The third name might surprise some of you, United States. Now, I'm not saying America is lining up tanks on India's border, no. But in geopolitics, power isn't only about military force, it's about pressure. The U.S. has always seen India as a country to either align with or contain, depending on how India plays the game. If India's moves align with America's interests, it's all smiles and handshakes. But if India dares to step outside the U.S. approved script, like buying oil from Russia or developing independent trade routes, suddenly you get lectures about democracy, human rights, and economic warnings. America doesn't need to fire a bullet to be a threat. It can use trade sanctions, financial tools, and diplomatic isolation as weapons. And make no mistake, they've done it to others before, and they'll do it again if it suits their agenda. Now let's talk about Turkey. You might think Turkey, really half a continent away. But Turkey's been playing a very clever game in recent years. It's positioning itself as a leader in the Muslim world, speaking up on issues like Kashmir, and trying to create a narrative that paints India as the villain. They're building alliances with countries that have their own grievances with India, and they're not shy about it. They might not be sending troops to India's borders, but in the information war in shaping global perception, they're in the fight. And if you underestimate narrative warfare, you've already lost half the battle. And finally, we've got Canada. Now that might shock some people, because Canada's supposed to be the polite maple syrup drinking multicultural paradise. But in the real world, even the polite ones play hardball when it suits them. Canada has recently taken positions on Indian domestic issues, especially relating to diaspora politics, that have caused serious diplomatic strains. And here's where it gets dangerous. Canada's not acting alone. It's often aligned with other Western countries on policy positions that put pressure on India. Sometimes a threat doesn't come from someone pointing a gun at you. It comes from someone quietly building a coalition against you. So there you have it, 5 countries, 5 very different kinds of threats. One's about territorial control, one's about ideological and historical rivalry, one's about economic and diplomatic pressure, one's about narrative influence, and one's about coalition building. Different methods, same objective, making sure India doesn't rise unchecked. But here's the part everyone needs to understand: India's not the India of 30 years ago. This isn't a nation just trying to survive. This is a nation ready to define the rules of the game. The question isn't, is India ready to face these threats? The question is, are these threats ready to face the India that's coming? Because readiness isn't about having the biggest army or the largest GDP, it's about having the mindset, the strategy, and the will to stand your ground when everyone else is trying to push you back. India's military modernization is in full swing. It's building alliances of its own, from Quad partnerships to strategic agreements with nations in Africa and the Middle East. It's investing heavily in technology, AI, cybersecurity, space exploration, not just to keep up, but to leap ahead. And most importantly, it's starting to play the long game, the same way its rivals have been doing for decades. No more reacting to every provocation, no more letting others dictate the pace. When China builds a port in Sri Lanka, India invests in infrastructure in Mauritius. When Pakistan stirs trouble at the border, India tightens international partnerships. When the US turns up the pressure, India deepens its economic ties with other powers to keep its options open. When Turkey talks, India builds. When Canada criticizes, India demonstrates results that speak louder than words. And make no mistake, these moves are not accidents. They're part of a bigger vision, to position India as not just a regional power, but a global one. To ensure that when decisions are made about the future of the planet, India's not just sitting at the table, it's helping set the menu. The threats are real, the challenges are complex, and the game is high stakes. But India's strength lies in the fact that it's a nation that has been through centuries of struggle, invasion, and pressure, and every single time, it's found a way to rise. So while the world's watching to see if India's ready, India's quietly building a future that'll make the question itself irrelevant. Because when you're truly prepared, you don't just meet threats, you make them think twice before they even come your way. If you want, I can now take this and stretch it out to the full **, 3,500 words **, with deeper geopolitical analysis, historical context, and dramatic storytelling, while keeping it in that **, Jack Ma **, motivational style. That way, it'll hit hard from start to finish without losing momentum. Would you like me to do that now? It marked the birth of India's assertive military doctrine backed by innovation. India's greatest defense is its ability to innovate faster than its rivals can adapt. The thing about innovation in a geopolitical sense is that it's not just about creating something new, it's about creating something that forces your adversaries to rethink their entire playbook. For decades, India was seen as the slow responder, the one always catching up, the one reacting to moves made by bigger players. That era is gone. Now, the country's defense establishment, private sector, scientific community, and political leadership are synchronized like never before, building a system where responses aren't just quick. They're proactive, unpredictable, and deeply disruptive to anyone trying to keep India in check. When India began investing seriously in indigenous defense technology, the outside world didn't take it seriously at first. They thought it would be slow, expensive, and outdated before it even hit production. But India was playing a different game entirely. Instead of trying to copy Western systems line by line, it started integrating its own tactical needs, its own environmental conditions, and its own strategic priorities into every design. That's why today, when a new missile system, drone platform, or cyber defense network is unveiled in India, it isn't just a product. It's a statement. It tells the world that India isn't just consuming defense technology, it's producing it at a scale and speed that rivals can't easily counter. Look at how India has approached its missile program. Rivals expected a long, cumbersome process that could be monitored and analyzed in real time. Instead, India started unveiling systems like the Agni and BrahMos variants faster than analysts could write their reports. And the beauty of it is in the layered approach. Each new version is not just an upgrade, but a leap forward, adding capabilities that weren't even on the radar for other nations. Hypersonic missile research, next-gen air defense systems, unmanned underwater vehicles. India's been pushing these programs not in the spotlight, but in carefully timed bursts that leave potential adversaries scrambling to adjust. But innovation isn't just about hardware, it's about doctrine. India's military leadership has been quietly rewriting the rules of engagement. Instead of relying purely on numerical superiority or geographic advantage, it's building a doctrine centered on adaptability. The goal is to ensure that if conflict comes, whether on the Himalayan border, in the Indian Ocean, or in cyberspace, India can shift strategies mid-battle without losing momentum. That's where innovation hits hardest. A nation that can change its tactics faster than you can react is a nightmare opponent. Cyberwarfare is another arena where India has started flexing its innovative muscle. It's no longer just about defending against attacks. It's about building offensive cyber capabilities that can neutralize threats before they escalate. In a world where infrastructure, finance, and even military systems are run through digital networks, the ability to infiltrate, disrupt, or protect those systems is as powerful as a nuclear deterrent. India understands that wars of the future will be fought as much with algorithms as with ammunition, and it's pouring resources into ensuring it has the upper hand. Space is the next frontier where India's innovation is unsettling its rivals. The Indian Space Research Organization has already proven it can launch missions at a fraction of the cost other nations require. That same cost efficiency is being translated into military applications, satellite surveillance, navigation systems, and potential space-based defense platforms. The ability to monitor rivals' movements from orbit, track missile launches in real time, and maintain secure communication channels in a crisis is an advantage that innovation has made possible at speeds the old India could never have imagined. And this innovation isn't limited to the big programs. One of the most overlooked aspects of India's defense transformation is its focus on scalable, low-cost, high-impact solutions. From portable battlefield drones to AI-assisted targeting systems, India is building tools that can be deployed quickly and in large numbers without breaking the budget. This is where speed and adaptability merge, producing enough of these systems to overwhelm an enemy's planning cycles before they even realize what's happening. Another reason India's innovation is such a potent defense is the decentralization of its knowledge base. Unlike some nations where military research is locked behind a few closed doors, India has cultivated partnerships between the armed forces, public research institutions, private tech firms, and startups. This creates a feedback loop where new ideas are constantly flowing, and the time from concept to deployment is shrinking dramatically. When you have hundreds of minds working on solutions instead of a handful, you can outpace an enemy's ability to predict your moves. India's rivals are discovering a frustrating reality. By the time they develop countermeasures to one Indian system, another, more advanced version is already in works. This cycle of constant improvement forces adversaries into a defensive posture, burning their resources just trying to keep up. And when your enemies are reacting to you instead of the other way around, you've already gained a strategic edge without firing a single shot, even in joint operations and alliances. India is using innovation as leverage. By offering cutting-edge systems and technology sharing agreements, it strengthens partnerships while subtly weaving its own defense architecture into the security frameworks of other nations. This not only boosts India's influence, but also makes it harder for rivals to isolate or pressure it, without dealing with a network of interconnected allies and technologies. The cultural shift in how India views its military power is equally important. For decades, there was a hesitancy to project force or to take risks in developing unconventional capabilities. That mindset has been replaced with a confidence born from success. Every satellite launch, every indigenous fighter aircraft, every successful missile test reinforces the belief that India doesn't just belong at the table of great powers. It can set the terms of the conversation. And that belief fuels more innovation, creating a cycle of growth that's difficult to disrupt. Consider the psychological impact on rival nations. When they can't predict your next move, when they can't confidently say they have superior technology, and when they see you innovating faster than their analysts can track, it creates uncertainty. In strategy, uncertainty is a weapon. It forces hesitation, it delays decisions, and in moments of crisis, that delay can be decisive. India's innovation is creating precisely that kind of uncertainty across multiple fronts: land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace. This is why India's greatest defense today isn't just its missiles, its tanks, or its soldiers. It's the relentless drive to create, improve, and deploy new solutions. Before its enemies can adjust, the world has seen powerful militaries that failed to adapt and paid the price. India is making sure it's never one of them. Its ability to innovate faster than rivals can adapt is turning potential threats into manageable challenges, and in some cases, into outright strategic advantages. The next decade will test this philosophy like never before. The pressures from global power shifts, regional rivalries, and technological arms races will intensify. But the seeds India has planted, in research labs, in military think tanks, in strategic partnerships, are already bearing fruit. If this pace continues, the question won't be whether India can defend itself from its top 5 threats. The question will be whether those threats can even keep pace long enough to matter at all.